There we are. Now, hopefully everyone can hear.
Hello there.
It works.
It works. Okay.
Leave your mic and we should be okay in terms of just some feedback there that can come in.
Good morning, Ewan. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. It does feel early. It's really dark as well. So apologies for the slightly moody scene that we have here.
That is a shirt, not your pajamas, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's okay. Please don't. Hey, you've got pants on. Great.
Yeah, no pajama keynotes here.
No pajama keynotes. Well, it's wonderful to see a flurry of people join us as we get ready to kick off this briefing session for the Design Thinking for Learning Incubator that's going to be focusing on STEM. And of course, it's a topic that's really on the tips of everyone's tongues of all the schools. Certainly I have worked with around Australia. I know that Lauren has experienced the same. And of course, while we'll be seeing you there in Melbourne, one of the people who's going to be touching base with us throughout the course of this time is Ewan. Many of you might know Ewan McIntosh because he started NoTosh many years ago now, but has now spread in terms of its impact around the world. And Ewan never seems to stop provoking small, large, and powerful groups of people to make really big change happen. I don't know of anyone who can provoke people in such a short amount of time better than Ewan. And Ewan is going to take us through exactly what we might be able to expect from this STEM incubator and the type of things that you can do before we see you in 2 weeks' time face to face. So without further ado, Ewan, tell us and provoke us in a way that only you can about what you think this could all be about.
Thank you very much for the welcome. And also, I think we're off to the right start because we have someone on the call who's called Dude Man 7. Oh, he's just changed it to Travis Thompson. Oh no, put it back to Dude Man 7. That was more in the tone.
Sorry.
Of,
that was just my phone's name.
I think it works well. I think we should keep it. So Lauren is absolutely all ears for this. Lauren she's over here to me. She'll be somewhere different for you. But Lauren is going to be leading the charge with you in just a few weeks' time, and I'll introduce you to her in just a moment. But welcome to this incubator. We have run these incubators around design thinking for learning in Australia really only since about their time this year. And so you are the second batch, if you like. But this is the first time we've ever taken this STEM focus on it with schools. And I'm really excited by it. Two reasons I'm excited. One, I know that this format that we've created makes a huge impact on the schools with whom we've worked. The reason it works particularly well is the pace that we go at. We're going to go quite fast. We're going to create changes in teaching and learning practice really quickly. We're going to measure its impact, not just with hard data, but with wonderfully soft data as well, that allows you to understand quickly whether what you're doing is having an impact in the classroom or not. And the second part that makes it so intriguing for me is that in this area of STEM, while I don't think that, well, I know that NoTosh has done the odd workshop here and there in STEM, but I don't know if we have ever done this kind of thing to this scale with schools. But I do know that we've done it in industry. And I am passionate, although I'm a languages teacher by heart, by trade. Today I spend most of my time with engineers. And in fact, on Monday, I'll be going to Berlin to kick off a new incubator, our third round incubator, with engineers from the firm ThyssenKrupp. We use the format that you guys have got. In fact, the format that we're using for your incubator is lifted directly from what we co-designed with the engineers at ThyssenKrupp, originally starting with automotive engineering. Now we're looking at how we map the world, the ocean's floor using submarine technology. We're looking at how you put chemical plants on ships in order to create a way to get energy back from wind farms that are further and further away from shore without the energy dissipating. We're looking at all kinds of all kinds of other technologies that are a little bit more confidential, things like machines that can repair themselves before they break down. And what I've noticed is that when we look at the work of adult engineers going through this, the magic for them comes because they're not sat with a bunch of other engineers of the same domain. If you put a bunch of chemical engineers together, it's quite a worrying thing. I don't know, maybe some of you are chemical engineers and you've been sat with chemical engineers, but I cannot imagine a dinner party of chemical engineers. It's quite traumatic to look at. And there's a lot of swaying back and forth and, all the usual stuff. But add an engineer from a different domain, a mechanical engineer, add a project manager, add someone like me who is an amateur in some ways when it comes to the STEM areas, because I'm a French and German teacher, but asking the what you might call a stupid question that suddenly sets off a train of thought that they hadn't had before. You need that multidisciplinary team to find the kind of challenges and define them really well, the kind of challenges that are defining our world, and then coming up with ingenious solutions that go far beyond what one person could offer. And this is where it ties right back into what NoTosh is all about. Our company vision is that we see people having the creative confidence, not just the machismo and I can do it, I can take it on, I can do all of this. It's the creative confidence to find their place in the team and building their strengths and to create something bigger together than any one person could do on their own. And when I look at the work that we do with our mixed multidisciplinary teams out in the engineering world, that's exactly what we've managed to achieve. And I think the other final cherry on top, that model that we developed nearly 3 years ago now with the engineers at ThyssenKrupp, this summer won the Capital Magazine Prize for the best methodology in the best innovation lab and the best integration into organisation. And that's really my third point. You are relatively small groups of STEM teachers or school leaders. We will create, no doubt, a big impact in your classroom. But there's something beyond this. On the final day that you spend with us, our question will be, you've done really well to get started, but what are you going to do to bring other colleagues into the change that you've created if you haven't done so already? And that's where we create much more significant change. And that award that we won for best integration into organisation was taking this way of thinking and really infecting a firm, an engineering firm, with 160,000 people in it. About 45,000 of them are engineers, and infecting the way that they think to the point where we are developing new businesses with them every quarter, businesses that wouldn't have existed a year ago. So the reason I've talked about that at such length is because the model that we're basing everything on with you is the same. It is born out of STEM. So what you are going to experience is absolutely part and parcel of what we would expect our engineering teams to go through. But we are not going to focus on developing a 40 million euro ship that can transport electricity. Instead, we're going to, well, we might do, it depends on the projects that you choose to do together, but we're going to get you working together to understand how the sum of your parts is greater than each individual. Okay, now the format for it, I'll run through very quickly. Day one really is today. We've got a small preparation task or two for you. I'm only going to give you one today, and then you're going to keep your eyes open on your email for the second task. But the first task is really quite simple. Ahead of our November 3rd first date, if you like, we want you to think individually about where you've already seen what you might call STEM action taking place in your school. And by definition, that means, in my book, 4 different domains working together on one thing. It's not the maths teacher deciding to, I don't know, turn an exercise about isosceles triangles into pictures of cranes and calling that engineering. I actually saw that once. That was one math teacher's attempt at STEM. Beautiful artwork. I would have added an A in there because of just the pure creativity in turning an isosceles triangle into a crane, but not good enough. So what I'm interested in is, would you manage to have a look through the past 6 months of teaching and learning in particular, and where have you seen examples of STEM teaching? I'll give you 3 chilies if you manage to find 4 different domains coming together to create something exciting, no matter how short or small or insignificant it might feel, or however complex it might be. I'll give you 2 chilies if you manage to find 3 of those domains working together, and you'll get 1 chili for every story you're able to share where there's a couple of you got together to create something using a couple of those domains perhaps. It's just to get you thinking about the fact that you already no doubt undertake some really cool STEM stuff, and you might be doing it without even realizing. But it's also to make you think about how about some of the challenges, some of the headaches you have in making that kind of stuff happen relentlessly every day. And when you come together on November 3rd, Lauren will take you through an incredibly exciting day. I'm going to ask Lauren just to say hi in a moment. Lauren, I saw teach not that long ago, probably a couple of years ago now. She's herself worked through the design thinking process, sat in the same chair as you guys, but she's created not just change in her classroom, not just in her school. She was able to stimulate some real change across a large swathe of schools in the Sydney area in a relatively short period of time. And so understanding how to not just have some innovative practice in the classroom and what that might feel like, but also how to then take that and spread it within your own school. Lauren is absolutely your person for that. Lauren, do you want to just flick your microphone on and say hello?
Hey guys, really looking forward to meeting everybody. And as Ewan said, yeah, I've just a little introduction to myself, been teaching for just over 10 years now in all the different grades. I do originate in the primary sector, really passionate about kids and people at the heart of everything that we do. So really looking forward to getting to know you and your communities and seeing how what we do can help you and how we can really try and delve into those meaty problems and also just disrupt your thinking about STEM and those individual subject areas that we get so caught up on sometimes. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing you on November 3.
Fantastic. And Lauren will be joined by a colleague, Chantel, who's not with us this morning or this evening because of she has today off, I think. She has baby duties today. But Hamish, I'm going to just, you've already speaking with the gang, but Hamish will join you as well that morning. Hamish, you're originally, I mean, it's interesting, Lauren introduces herself as a primary specialist. I'm a high school French and German teacher. Hamish's STEM pedigree isn't particularly obvious at first glance. We hired him out of the State Library of Victoria. He's a bookworm, but not really. He's into some of the elements of STEM, but in unexpected ways, particularly through the work you've done in video gaming as a way to engage the visitors to your library, certainly, but also some of the schools you've run. Hamish, give a really quick, not tweet, but maybe small Facebook post introduction about yourself.
Thanks, Ewan. Yeah, look, it's always a pleasure to be mixing and matching the way we design. Often STEM is a purpose to help drive transdisciplinary learning and actually make it more connected and purposeful. And that was certainly some of the experiences I've had in education in the UK, in Japan, at the State Library. I ran a city school for a number of years for Year 9 students. And I think at the heart of it has been a purpose to try and push really what we're trying to design with learning to make it much more powerful and impactful. And that's really the agenda of STEM. We see that everywhere we go. I'm actually interested to see when schools are going to start talking about blockchain. It's a current challenge, and it's one that when you take the edge of what people are pushing at with technology and science and innovation, you can find a really powerful place for it in schools. And I think that's where schools can actually keep pace with what's happening out in the real world. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we design that together and really pushing the boundaries of what STEM can actually mean for learning in school.
Thank you so much. We have some other team members as well who you're going to interact with, and I'll explain how that happens. So we've got, I've given you a small preparation task. All I would ask is that you write or sketch or draw something down as an aid memoir as to what kinds of things you've seen before when you've spotted STEM. Bring that with you on November 3rd. On November 3rd, Lauren leads you through a pretty fast-paced first day. This first day is the kickoff to Sprint 1. We work in 3 sprints, really, and the first sprint is it's a little longer than normal because we've got the kind of Christmas holidays in the middle, but we presume you're going to take some rest and enjoy taking some rest during Christmas and not try and run a marathon at sprint pace. The first sprint is normally about 6 weeks worth of action in school. The kickoff will help frame in your mind a relatively small but nonetheless ambitious change in your personal practice. Given the nature of STEM, our goal is to see how collaboration between you as teachers is possible. But we also appreciate that's bloody hard to do. And so what we're going to do is start with change that's really feasible, that you can undertake in your own classroom, and at a push, bring other people in if you can and if it fits. The first day will be designed to provoke. We're not going to have any notion of what good STEM might look like, because I can tell you hand on heart that if the industrial world has barely worked out what good STEM looks like, and they're calling upon a group of teachers to help them understand how they might create that, then I pretty much know that in schools we've still got a lot of bountiful scope to define what good STEM looks like in each of our schools. And personally, I would hope that each of you provides a different flavour of what quality STEM looks like, so that perhaps other schools can learn from your experiences, but above all, you really set yourselves heads and shoulders above other schools in your areas. It's as blunt as that. So we're going to start with a first day designed to provoke you on some interesting challenges around how we define problems. We're going to really test your assumptions about what students need in order to be able to undertake meaningful, deep learning in the STEM subjects. And we're going to make sure that you leave that first day with a clear idea of that change you're going to undertake in your classroom. We don't just leave you to it and then say, tatty bye and see you in the new year. We say that the most important part isn't those big events where we all come together. The most important part are 2 forms of coaching. Form number 1 of coaching is face-to-face. Each school will have a half day of face-to-face time with Lauren. Lauren will come to your school and either see you individually or see you as a small group, and we'll work that out with you. And it's a good first touching point just as you begin to put some new ideas into practice to check that the cargo tanker is heading in the right direction. On top of that, we offer you some online coaching using the same technology we're using today. You can use it on your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, your computer. You can choose when you get your coaching. It's individual. You can come in a pair if you want, but it's designed to be one-on-one. And it's with any one of our international team. So you might find yourself at this time of day, at the end of a day, you've got a gnarly challenge that you can't quite work out for yourself. You want to talk it through. And so I'm up early having a coaching session with you. It could be Ian Stewart, who's about a mile down the road and just beginning a coaching session, in fact, with a teacher in another part of Australia. Ian is a former electrical engineer, turned teacher quite late in life, and rose to become an assistant principal in the high school on the Isle of Islay. That's why we don't let him out the office and keep him behind a screen, because he'll generally use a visit to a client is an excuse to find a particularly fine single malt. And we don't want too much of that. You know, machines and whiskey don't blend particularly well. So Ian might be coaching you. It could be one of the Australian team you've met. It could be Kynan based over in New York. Whoever it is will have chosen based not only on the time zone and availability, but the kind of provocation that you might like, that might benefit your work. We then have a second pit stop in the middle, just after Christmas. That second pit stop is where we all come back together again, and you will work with Chantel and Lauren and review the successes and the headaches of that first piece of practice that you had, that you'd put into place. But that's not really the lion's share of that day. That day is about upping the ante. And we are going to really push your ambition levels in terms of what's possible. So we want to see how we help break down some of the silos that inevitably get in the way of trying to do rich collaboration between you as professionals. But what about your students as well? And this is the term, and it's kind of February through till for another 8 weeks or so. This is the term where we really want to try stuff. And if it fails, it fails. It doesn't really matter so much if it fails. As we say, it's early on in the school year. If it really fails that badly, you've got plenty of time to catch up and make amends for it. Frankly, it's not going to happen. It's going to be minor headaches you have on that journey that maybe you don't have time to resolve. But it's learning from those challenges that then takes you to the final pit stop. Remember, all through that time, you've got further online coaching, you've got face-to-face time with Lauren or Chantel. That final pit stop that we have is really a celebration of where you've got to so far. It's also helping you sell what you've done to other colleagues, explain what you've done and the benefits it's had to your students, because there are incredible benefits from teachers like you coming together, planning together, joining up your thinking between various school subjects if you're teaching in distinct subjects, and who knows, maybe creating your own kind of Edison-like tent in school where occasionally you can come together and create a STEM skunk works with your students and give them a flavour, give them a sense of what is possible when you bring all these domains together. And that final pit stop is not just a celebration, it's also the beginning of a third unassisted sprint. That third unassisted sprint is where we send you off back to school with yet more ambition in your plans. And probably the biggest ambition is to involve more of your colleagues in the change that you're trying to create. You'll have already experimented for a couple of months with at least 2 really ambitious ideas that you wanted to get your teeth into. This is the point where you make your decision and say, this is what I really want to see my colleagues get excited by too, and you bring them in. So that's the format. I'm out of breath talking about it. It is fast-paced, even though in the calendar months it looks like it stretches out over some time. Remember that there are vacations in the middle. You're going to need them because we will want to push you. We will, in your coaching sessions, be asking some challenging questions that really test assumptions about each of your domains and how they might fit together. And while you're running your sprints, of course, I will be here with colleagues in Europe running the very same thing with a group of engineers for the second time as we take their 6 crazy ambitious ideas and actually try to get them ready for market. So during our time, I'll make sure to be giving the updates that I can on these kind of super secret projects. They might inspire some ideas in your classroom, and certainly we're learning a lot from them as we go through it too. So I want to open the floor up just to see, are there any initial questions that you have? Is there anything that would be useful for you to know now that we've not covered? Bearing in mind, this session is recorded, and so your colleagues who were not able to make it can catch up afterwards, and we'll send out a brief email with a reminder of that introduction preparation task that we've asked you to do. But over and above those things, are there any burning questions that you guys have? If there are, you flick on your microphone and say. I'll just give you some reflection time. Great. That means, Hamish, Lauren, it means I was clear in my instructions. I'm getting better. All that teaching lark. Oh no!
Or maybe they're just too scared.
Plaza, have you got a question?
Yeah.
Okay, fire away. The connection's a little bit shaky. Fire away.
One question about STEM and why the A wasn't in there. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I did. So there was a question about STEM and why the A was not in there. It's a beautiful question because you're talking to a bunch of creatives. I'm sat here with a. I'll just see if I can turn this around. I'm sat here with a drum kit next to me. You can all the books in the bookshelf are advertising and marketing and creative direction books. Lauren isn't just a primary specialist; she was in kindergarten. They just do colouring in. Lots of no, they don't. They do more than that. But lots and lots of creative people who are going to be facilitating what you do. And it's a question that we've been debating for the last 6 months. Can I put it really bluntly? Is that none of you guys in Australia seem to put the A in. And I was worried if we put the A in, no one would turn up. Second thing is that if I go to ThyssenKrupp, I'm going on Monday, and I can say this tongue-in-cheek slightly, but many of all those stereotypes that you could ever imagine of German engineers, you assume that the A is not there. Nothing could be further from the truth. They're some of the most creative people I've ever worked for, but they would not describe themselves as creatives. They would describe themselves as engineers. The semantics of it are not interesting to me. What's really interesting is the story. And I would actually love someone to talk about an engineering project that was undertaken at their school that's blatantly creative. And as I sit here, the twinkling lights of the new Queensferry crossing, the tallest suspension bridge in the world, just completed last month, is probably, like most Scottish things, one of the best engineering feats in the world. And incredibly creative. It is a beautiful thing to look at. But again, some of the chief construction managers on it would not call themselves particularly creative or arts-based. So my very long answer is saying, of course, the A is in there. It's going to be in there in spades, but I don't think we need to write it in. I want to see mathematicians are artistic and creative. The whole point of creating an equation originally was to make that equation as beautiful as possible. And that's why they have 16 windows, little window panes in Cambridge University in your lodgings when you are a mathematician. And it's so that when you write the equation on chalk on your glass window, it's equal on both sides the whole way through. So that's the kind of beauty I hope we're aiming for. I hope that answers your question, or at least avoided it really cleanly. We're going to. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. But if you're not, if you're one of these people who I'm not particularly creative, we're going to absolutely show you that you are. With that in mind, and thank you for asking the question. Do you want me to give you your second preparation task now? Given that you're in a good mood, I can see you smiling. So the second preparation task, I'll write this in the email too. I want you to think of the moment in your life of which you are most proud. What is the moment in your life of which you're most proud? And don't go for the cliche of your children. And frankly, it's maybe not your proudest moment either. Go for something that personally, selfishly, you were incredibly proud of. And find an artifact that sums it up. So it could be a Buddha, it could be a rock, it could be a photograph from back in the day. But I want you to think of an artifact that sums up that moment of which you're most proud. And that will feature quite early on in that first day. Don't be the person that didn't bring an artifact. So you got two tasks. The first one is an ongoing one that we ask you to undertake over the weeks to come, spotting where you think STEM or STEAM is already happening in your school, or has happened in your school in recent memory. So let's say the last 6-7 months. I don't want anyone. Remember that time 3 years ago when we had creativity hour and we got the kids with marshmallows and spaghetti. Remember that. That does not count. Okay. And the second one is about this object, this artifact that sums up the moment in your life of which you are most proud. Okay. So I hope that makes things clear. I hope you're excited about what's coming up. I can't wait to see how this evolves, and I'm going to be following it and following you really closely. I'm really looking forward to meeting some of you in coaching. I'll take the ones who are smiling now, and not the ones who look stressed, or who are subtly doing their marking below the line of the camera. So let's see where this takes us. Enjoy the experimentation. Enjoy having your thinking pushed. Remember to breathe in, count to 10 before saying yes, but, because every provocation that these guys give you is well meant, well intentioned, and well thought out, and designed to get you thinking totally differently from the way you've thought before. If we don't have any further questions, then I will bid you farewell. I'm going to send you an email later on today with the video, with the summary of all these things that we want you to prepare and think about beforehand. And I really look forward to chiming in with you again in the video on November 3rd. We want to see you at 9 a.m. on November 3rd for a cup of coffee before we get started. Don't turn up at 9:29 because otherwise you miss all the surprises. Okay? Hamish, Lauren, I'm just going to check with you. Have I missed anything, or I think we're good to go?
We're pretty good to go, but I just have one favour. Yesterday we put up a post on Facebook about how excited we were to start this process with our other bunch, and I don't know if anyone saw it, but the photo was a little grim. So I was hoping that you'd help me out, and maybe like we can have some waves and smiles so that when I take a photo,
yeah,
you look excited.
we need to make STEM teachers look happy. Yeah? It's a hard job.
Yeah.
Okay? So
everyone wave and smile at the same time. Yay!
Got it?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Normal service can be resumed. Work on those frowns.
Yes.
We'll see you in a few weeks' time. I'm delighted with the programme that Lauren has been bringing together with the rest of the team. I cannot wait to see how it pans out in practice. You guys are the first to get this in the world for any schools. It's award-winning when the engineers have had it done to them, and I hope it's winning for your students when we run it with you in your schools. Okay, it's Walton's time, so bye-bye, and I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.
See everybody. Have a good end of the week. See you soon in 2 weeks' time.